It's not gonna get better. Spring's here, and so are my allergies. So if I start crying this video, that's why. Hello, what's up? It's April 7th, which means I have been on tea for 4 months today. As you can hear, my voice is different. It's steady now. It's no longer breaking every sentence. I don't think it was last video either, but in between, it definitely has been a mess. And it's somewhat okay again now. So that's good. There's a sneeze coming. My sneezes have changed. That's one thing. I've started sneezing at my dad. Really fucking loud. Okay. Last month, I barely read anything. I didn't like anything that I read, aside from Antigone. I liked Antigone. It was kind of a weird month for me, reading-wise, and I didn't like that. I was feeling very off. I wasn't feeling like me. The first thing that school had me read this month was something that luckily made me feel like me again. It was this one, Who Killed My Father by Edouard Louis. I've been doing French on Duolingo just for the sake of saying French things every now and then because I think that's fun. I don't even like French. I just like speaking French sometimes. Anyway, this is a book from a French author who is my age. I don't think he's my age. I think he was my age when he wrote this. He is a gay man who grew up in poverty in the north of France, and he writes about that. It's a very thin little book about his father, his relationship with his father, and his father's relationship with the world and his society, and the way that the government treats poor people, essentially, and how his father became a victim of that. So it's non-fiction, but it's written in the most stunning way. Like, this is the kind of thing that I like to read. It's written in vignettes, memories and anecdotes that he has about his father, and it's written really, really beautifully. I don't think I've ever heard anyone on here talk about this guy or this book, but I would recommend it. I think it's really good. I would like to read more of his work in the future. Also, this cover is stunning. Look at this painting. I love it. The next thing school had me read wasn't really required. It was optional because the writers of the book, which is a graphic novel, came to talk about it in my graphic novel / animation / anime class. Is that what the class? I don't even know what the full title of the class is. Anyway, Naar Texas en terug. It's Dutch, but it's about a father and a son who go to Texas just to basically eat at fast food chains and eat cereal. Basically, they do this to get the son out of the house because he's kind of in like a crisis where he doesn't know, he's finished with school and he doesn't know what to do next. Relatable. Yeah, I thought it was okay. I liked the talk that they gave about it, even though they mostly just talked about what was in the book. And if you had read it, it honestly wasn't that new, but it was fun to kind of get the inside tidbits. Yeah, I don't have that much more to say about it. The next thing we read for school, I actually didn't finish this, so I feel like I'm cheating because I do want to finish it at some point. But it's Het Hoofdkussenboek, The Pillow Book by Sai Shonagon, who was a maid kind of person in the court. I read it in Dutch, so terms are difficult. In the court of the emperors of some part of Japan, I don't believe it was all of Japan, in like 600 something. No, wait, I think it was 1,000 something. Yeah, I was wrong. She was probably born in 965. Anyway, this was written over 1,000 years ago, and it's so much fun. The teacher actually called it the burn book of the Japanese court. Basically, this woman is just writing lists and anecdotes and little stories about things that she hates, things that she likes. She's writing a lot of gossip. She's talking shit about a lot of people and a lot of things and a lot of animals even. She's got a lot to get off her chest. It's not entirely sure that all of this was actually based on real events because she wrote it way after she had been kicked out of the court. So it's kind of vague of whether or not this is actually like a reliable account of what court life was like at the time. But it is a reliable source of how people were talking shit 1,000 years ago. Very fun to read, but we didn't have to read all of it, so I didn't read all of it. I had to move on to the next book, but I think I will finish this at some point just because it was so funny. The next thing I read was, well, actually then I had to move on to the next thing to read, which was great, and I'll get to it, but it was a lot for the brain to take in, and my brain was feeling like mush in the evenings. You know how that happens? It happens to me a lot. Apparently it doesn't really happen to other people because they do their work at night, and I cannot do that. But I do try to read, but like when your brain is mush, it's hard to read essays, spoiler alert. So I wanted to just check if I maybe could just read something else. And I had this book on my physical TBR, and I was like, I'm just gonna try to read a couple pages. It was Fever Dream by Samantha Schweblin. I don't think I have ever read an entire book in one sitting, but I did it. Well, actually that is a lie, because I did get up once to get a snack. But overall, I did finish it in the same evening without really doing anything else in between aside from eating snacks, which I'm always doing anyway. So it counts as one sitting. This book is really cool, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have read it without taking a break. Although I have to say, like, there's not that much text on the pages, so it wasn't that hard. But it wasn't that hard anyway because it was really interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say what this book is about. I always imagined that it didn't really have a plot. It does have a plot. It's about a mom who goes on a holiday with her daughter, remote town in Argentina. They are from Argentina. It's an Argentinian book. They meet a mom and a son of like around the same ages as them, and something weird is up with this kid. And then things start getting weird in general. And I do think that you should know anything more beyond that. But the way that this was written is so cool because it's written as a dialogue between this mom of the girl and the son of the other mother. They are like having this weird conversation, and that's what this book is. And I thought that was so fucking cool. Like, that's a cool way to narrate a thing. Yeah, I was really in awe of this one. It was a very quick read, obviously. I liked it a lot. Then what I was reading for school at the same time, I also didn't finish this one because it's a lot, but I do want to finish it. The Essays by Michel de Montaigne. I get to do it again. Thank you. Yeah. These are essays from around the 1500 something Renaissance times. I would have dreaded this book if I hadn't been made to read his essay on cannibals, which is also in here, for another course that I had last semester, which was a really good essay that I really liked. It had some really like cool insights on cannibals and just the way that Western society looks at Native American tribes, basically, which were then like new cultures. And so I was really looking forward to this one, and I was very right to do so because this was really good and really cool. These are very interesting, very fresh, cool essays, and he's written them in the people's French rather than Latin. Writing in normal language that people can generally understand is very important to him. I like that a lot about it. His ideas and thoughts and the way he writes them down are also interesting. There's one essay in here that obviously I didn't read that many of them because I didn't really have the time, but I definitely am going to try to read all of the ones that are in here. And then I'm going to be sad still that these aren't all the essays because these are just a selection of essays. There's one in here that is called To Philosophize is to Learn How to Die. That is genuinely one of the best essays or just things in general that I've ever read in my life, and I think it's genuinely changing my life in some way because I'm thinking about it all of the time. It's so good. I would strongly recommend Michel de Montaigne, which is like, I don't know who would feel called to read a Renaissance guy's writing, but if you have ever been interested in a Renaissance guy's writing and you think it might be a lot, just try de Montaigne. He's chill. I mean, he has some weird takes on women, but he also has some really progressive takes on women. He kind of changes his mind a lot, but he's also like, that's a thing about humans. They change their minds a lot, and that's okay. You can still express yourself and change your mind later because that's just what being alive is. But yeah, so he does have some weird takes on women, but then again, he was alive in 1500 something, so it kind of makes sense. But other than that, excellent essays. Strongly recommend. Also, for another class, we had to read one text by Da Vinci, which was also super interesting. I might want to maybe pick one of his books up at some point, but I feel very brave saying that, so I might not, but I might in the future. Who knows? I've been reading a lot of books at the same time, which I hate doing because it causes me to be very slow at all of them, and I don't like that. but I finished a couple this weekend, so we're getting somewhere again. I've rounded it down to 5 now. It went from 8 to 5, so I read this book, My Phantoms by Gwendolyn Riley. The story behind this, I'm just gonna bring you along with the lore of my life, is that I brought this from the library with me months ago. I've had it staring at me for the entire duration of time that I was allowed to have this in my house from the library before I had to bring it back. But I just simply did not have the time to read it, and that was pissing me off. So I brought it back to the library, and then the next time I was at the library, after I finished Fever Dream, I was like, hey, I can read, so I'm gonna go to the library and bring some more books, because that makes sense. No, it doesn't. Anyway, I just immediately went back to the shelf where I found it the first time. Now I'm going to read it. Finally. I've been staring at it long enough. It's been staring at me long enough. What I thought this book was going to be about is, it says it's about a daughter who's going to take care of her dying mother. That's what the synopsis says. In my opinion, that is a spoiler. It says a lot of emotions are brought up, but I didn't really get that sense at all. Basically, to me, this book was just a woman shitting on her mother for 200 pages. I think the point of that was that relationships are complicated, something like that. But like, I didn't really like it for that, because in my opinion, her mum didn't really deserve the way that she was talking shit about her. Without catching a break from that, all that shit talking, no redeeming talk. Also, the main character herself didn't have any personality. There was no ongoing story. It was just her looking back at moments where she was annoyed with her mum. I didn't like it. I didn't like the tone of it. I didn't like the way that she was just constantly negging her mum for no fucking reason. It felt disrespectful, and I didn't like it. Well, that's all I have to say about it. After all that time waiting for it, it was kind of a letdown. But yeah, it is what it is. Now we move on to a high, because I found a new favorite author, and I knew it 2 pages in, like the second I read the opening line. I mean, it could have gone downhill from there, but it didn't. I'm talking about Clarice Lispector. I kind of knew that that was going to happen. I knew Clarice was gonna be high on my list of faves, just from hearing her name and from hearing people talk about her. But yeah, we had to read Hour of the Star for my world literature class, and I'm so fucking glad that we did, because otherwise I wouldn't have had the time to read her, and now I did have the time to read her and an excuse to read her. I am fucking obsessed with her. She's incredible. I mean, look at her. Look at that. The haunting beauty. Are you kidding me? She's gorgeous. Anyway, this book, I mean, it's very skinny, as you can see. It's a very small little novella about a man who is writing about a girl who he has maybe made up, or maybe he has actually seen her on the street. He's seen her on the street, and now he's made up this entire backstory for her and like a whole story about her. But the way that it's written is so... Clarice was just out there doing her own thing, essentially. That's what the introduction says, and the translator's note also said it. She was just doing her own thing, in her own style, in her own use of grammar. I just thought it was incredible. Some of the greatest lines I've ever read. Her mind moves in such interesting ways. The fact that this is her last book, and in the end there's some ruminations on death, is kind of eerie to me. I'm so excited to read more of her work, because I know that she is going to be a favorite of all time. She's going to have her own stack next to my Jeanette Winterson stack right here behind me. Yes, I said it. She's on that level for me. So that's a very high honor for Miss Clarice Lispector. And that's after 1 book. Let's see if I can find a good line to read. Like a stray dog, she was guided exclusively by herself. I too, from one failure to the next, have reduced myself to myself, but at least I want to encounter the world and its God. I'm sure of one thing. This narrative will deal with something delicate, the creation of a whole person who surely is as alive as I am. Take care of her. It's very meta, and I fucking love that. This was definitely my favorite of the month. Sorry to Fever Dream, and sorry to Edouard Louis Lispector. Ran away with a crown, as she should. Absolute fucking queen. As for what I'm reading now, I started Braiding Sweetgrass. I read the first 2. They're not even really chapters. The first 2 bits, and they were really good, but I didn't have the time. I'm also reading another book on autism. It's a Dutch one. It's written by a Belgian guy. Autisme en het voorspellende brein. I'm liking it better than Unmasking Autism, so that's good. I'm reading a Turkish poetry epic novel. It's very big. You're gonna see it next month because I'm gonna finish it like this week. I feel like I'm also reading other things. Oh yeah, I'm still reading the Pillow Book and I'm still reading the essays. And that makes 5, doesn't it? Yeah. The end is in sight, or like the going back to reading 1 book at a time or 2 books at a time is in sight. Very happy about that. Oh, I do want to say something else. I was going to talk about movies again, but only movies that I really liked. I want to mention a documentary I saw. It's called Aleco. It's about this small remote town in Mexico where all of the fathers are working in the city, so they're barely ever there, and the mothers are like taking care of the land and the animals and the children. But the film is mostly about the children, and the woman who made it, I don't know her name right now, but she's normally a feature filmmaker, so she has an excellent sense of cinematography and shots, and like the aesthetic is fantastic. The way that she films these kids going about their days, it's not the kind of documentary where people talk to the camera and the person behind the camera is kind of meddling in, although I do usually like that. But in this case, it was just the camera observing these people going about their lives, and it was so good. The shots of these children just reacting to the things happening around them were absolutely incredible. The land was so beautiful, all the animals were so great, and just, it was so good. It's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. I was so sad when it was over because I cried like 5 times throughout, and then it was over and I just wanted to cry again because I didn't want it to be over. I wanted to see more. It was so fucking good. There were 2 kids in there who were so fucking cute, and there was this girl, I think she was like 10. I think she wanted to be a teacher because she would like set up a classroom in the shed and invite all these kids to come learn about something that she'd chosen. She was so cute. And then there was this little boy who was like 6, and he was the cutest child I've ever seen in my entire life. And there's this one scene where he hugs a tree, which is actually on the film poster. The entire audience, it wasn't that big of an audience, but everyone in the room went like, aww. It was so cute. Incredible movie. Yeah. Also, this week, I went to see Vanya, Andrew Scott's West End play. He is incredible. I cannot believe he did that. That was insane. It's a play based on a Chekhov play, but it has like 8 characters, and Andrew Scott plays all of them at the same time. It's insane. It's kind of hard to explain, but the way it felt to me watching it was like reading a book, because like none of the characters really had their own appearance, but you were just kind of imagining them moving separately across the stage when really it was just the one guy doing it all. It was like reading a book and watching a play at the same time. It was a strange experience, and I think it's absolutely insane that that man can do that. So if you have a chance to see that, go see it because it's incredible. What else did I see this month? I don't think anything worth mentioning. I go see a movie at least once a week, but not all of them are good. This is the week that Love Lies Bleeding comes out. I'm very excited about that. Also, this month, I don't know, I'm just mentioning things that I am excited about in the future. Four Daughters comes out, which is an Iranian documentary meta film, which is a whole thing, apparently, in Iranian cinema, which I've learned about recently. They do a lot of meta documentary / fiction films, which I find a really cool combination. So I'm very excited about this new film. I'll let you know if it was good. If I never mention it again, it might not have been good, but I might also just have forgotten about it. Anyway, that's what I'll be seeing this week. Let me know what were your favorite books and movies of this month. Or what's your favorite Clarice Lispector? If you have one, tell me. Yeah, well, that's it for this month. Hope you had a good one. Like, comment, subscribe. I always forget to say that stuff. I don't really care if you do, to be honest. Although I do like a good comment. Whatever you feel like. Alright, anyway, read So Much Blues. And also Vagabonds. I'm watching it here. I haven't talked about it in a while, but Vagabonds is one of the greatest books I've read. If you like queer things, read Vagabonds. That's it for my book recs this month. See you later. Bye.